Welcome to this special CBC Newfoundland and Labrador series, Inside the Classroom. I'm Ramona Deering, more commonly found on the radio side of things, hosting the Crosstalk phone-in show. You are looking at something remarkable, a gathering of public school teachers, principals, and counselors from right across Newfoundland and Labrador, educators ready to break their silence, teachers with deep concerns about what's going on inside their classrooms, especially when it comes to inclusive education. That is the focus of the first segment in our series. Teachers are here on their own time, prepared to speak up about an education system they care about deeply. It has never happened before. So let me just welcome everyone to this forum. Fantastic to have you with us. Thank you for coming. All right, so if we're going to focus the first segment on inclusive education, I think that we should identify exactly what it is. How would you define it?
To me, an inclusive education would be one in which all children within the system get the best education that they are capable of, and so that they can be productive, happy, and working citizens.
And how many people here think that that is happening? If you think it's happening, you could just raise your hand. Okay. Can you tell me, Sheldon, what your experience is?
I certainly can. In years gone by, I've been in situations, for example, one year I was put into a situation where, as a classroom teacher, at the beginning of the morning, you go through your daily routines and whatnot, and then you go into your first class. I have had an experience where I've had several exceptionalities in my classroom, whereas autism, kids who just need a little bit of extra academic help, anxiety issues, and unfortunately, due to the class size, they were taking up a lot of my time. They were reacting to each other. The student assistant, who I only have one, when I needed more, was not able to help me with the numbers. For example, she would take a student out just to give them kind of a downtime, and I would be left with students who I have to take care of, and therefore, in turn, I guess, missing out on some curriculum time as well.
What do you mean missing out on some curriculum time?
Taking time away from me getting started and getting into the actual instruction time to kind of debrief everybody in the classroom.
So what have you done to try to catch up?
Unfortunately, when one course suffers, then I have to automatically take from another course and try and bide my time and balance my time in order to get all the curriculums accomplished in the run of a year, which is quite tough, especially with class sizes now the way that they are and the lack of resources that we're having. It just makes my job a lot more difficult.
How frustrated are you?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I guess it would be about a 1 million. And that's the truth of the matter. I'm beyond frustrated. It's an ongoing battle. It's a daily battle. It's been going on for years. The inclusionary model is a fantastic one. We want success for everyone, and theoretically, the inclusionary model is wonderful. But when it comes to practice and putting it into practice, if it's not resourced properly, human resources, funding, whatnot, then it's not going to work. And I see it on a daily basis, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well. I speak on behalf of every teacher in the province. I don't think anyone would argue with that.
All right, well, let me see if that is in fact the case. Can you tell me what your experience has been with inclusive education?
Biggest thing for me is the challenge to have enough personnel in the classroom. I have dealt with special needs children over 30 years, and a lot of the issues have been behavioral issues and not having the resources there to be able to keep everyone safe.
And have you been safe?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, when we talk about education, we don't normally talk about safety, right? So it's quite surprising to me that that's one of the first key words that you've used.
Well, myself personally, I have been kicked and bitten and scratched and spit upon and ended up being strangled in class and had to take leave as a result. So no, it's not safe. And that's me personally. That's not what's happening to my other students in the school or within my classroom. The situation has been they're seeing violence in the school and we can't protect them from it. If your caretaker is not safe and you are seeing your caretaker hurt on a daily basis, what are you feeling? What are the other students feeling?
Now, when you say that you were strangled, what do you mean you were strangled in the classroom?
A child put his hands around my throat because he was frustrated with the demands I was placing on him.
And are we talking about a child who is angry at you or the system? How is this violence occurring?
Frustrated. They can't communicate. They can't get their needs met.
So these are incidents that you experienced with special needs children or children with exceptionalities.
Most of the time, because I am a special needs teacher, yes, but no, regular children in the classroom too who have just lost it due to they're having a bad day, something's happened at home, and they don't know how to deal with it, or they're being bullied or something like that's happening. I mean, we're running interference for all of these things. And as special needs teacher, I have the training to be the one who responds to these situations. If it's happening in a regular classroom, I'm the one, plus the student assistant, plus the wonderful administration I was blessed with, is to get in and help out and get the rest of the children out, evacuate them, and deal with the child who's having a meltdown.
Who else in this room has experienced violence in the classroom? That's an extraordinary number of people. Who else wants to jump in on this conversation right now?
I haven't been out so long as many of my colleagues here, but since I've been teaching, the inclusive system has been in place, and I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of all of the K-12 system through both substituting as well as being in other positions, and I think it echoes clear in almost every situation and almost every school that the resources they're just not there to properly satisfy all of the needs and the wants of these children in an inclusive education. In some of these situations, like if you might have a class of 20 plus, I've had those classes, and in some cases I've had situations where I've had basically half of my class on an educational plan, an IEP, either for behavioral issues, academic issues, or anything like that.
So half of the students they have either special needs or they need special attention from you.
Yes, and all those students who would be on this IEP would have something in their plan saying that they need some sort of support, whether it would be academically or behaviorally. And in particular, one year for this particular class, I was the only one there all day long. I never had no IRT in-class support. They would receive it out of class, but I wouldn't have anyone actually coming into class with me, which was a part of the mandate. And as well, I wasn't receiving any student assistant time with this particular class.
And so what does that mean for the students in your class?
Well, unfortunately, in cases like that, obviously the ones who are on the IEPs are not receiving their help and their strengths and need, but as well, you have the other half of the class who have to lose out because I either had to focus more time with those students to try to bring them up, or I had to, sometimes have them working together because I just could not physically do it on my own. I couldn't address all of the needs of that class because the support was not there, the resourcing was not there.
What is your experience of inclusive education?
I have two different experiences with inclusive education. I have the side of the teacher, and I also have the side of the parent as well. I have two children. One, has certain needs that have to be met at certain times, and I have one who doesn't. And in your classroom, you see what you can do in the run of a day with what you're given in terms of resources. And the way most of us understand the model to work is that the resources are given to the ones who have the highest level of needs. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources to address the academic needs and the behavioral needs equally. So the behavioral needs is a safety issue. And when you have a lot of your resources being taken up on behavioral needs, then the academics is going to the side. And we're in the industry, if you will, of educating people. That is what we do. And at the end of the day, if you feel like you haven't done everything that you could do, you haven't spoken to every child, you haven't, gotten the chance to go near every child, then at the end of the day, you feel like a failure.
Can you paint us other images of what you're trying to convey here?
We have different protocols like a secure school, which might be called if they're dealing with a difficult student, where everybody in the school could be basically locked in their classroom for an hour or however long it takes to deal with the situation that is being dealt with at the time. Could be one small child that they're dealing with. And you have however many people are in your school locked in their classroom, can't go to the bathroom, can't go and get a drink, and everybody is just kind of left to wonder. But the younger they are, they worry about those things. And back when we started doing these things, everybody used to worry, oh my goodness, it's a secure school, everything's going to come to an end kind of thing. But now they're just kind of like, oh yeah, secure school, and they don't go home, they don't tell the stories to their parents. So oftentimes their parents don't even know that there's something going on in their classroom that's disrupted their learning for the day.
So there's one child who is acting out and possibly violent, and students throughout the school have to be locked inside their classroom. How often might this happen?
Well, it depends on the school, it depends on the children. Many times you could have a week where you might have several called on a day. It's kind of like, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. You hear it so many times, you don't take it as seriously as you used to. So you have the students who, should have been getting their academic interventions met, but we end up spending the time on behaviors, which I totally believe is important too, because it's about the whole child. And, if you can't help them with their emotional issues, then what are we there for? But there has to be a point where, they give us the resources to deal with everything.
Who else here has concerns that they're not spending enough time with their students?
I sure do. I have a class that there's a mixture of students from students that don't speak English very well. They're newcomers to the country. Students with mental health needs, students with behavioral needs, students with learning disabilities or learning exceptionalities. I can't possibly divide myself 31 ways, 30 ways, 29 ways. I can't do it. I leave my classroom, many days I leave my classroom and go home and I feel defeated. So much so that I've kind of adopted the hashtag defeated. And that's a horrible way to feel as a professional that deeply cares about the well-being of my students. And when I can't give them what they need, because it's impossible, I'm not a magician, I'm not a wizard, that's just the best word that I can use is defeated. And that's a horrible way to leave the classroom when there's so many joys that happen during the run of a day and so many brilliant students and colleagues that I work with and parents that I work with on a day-to-day basis. But the underlying feeling is I go home feeling defeated. There's something wrong with that equation.
Those are unbelievable words to hear from a teacher. Can anyone else here relate?
To me, the very essence of inclusive education is based on needs. And that means that every child that comes into that classroom should have their needs met. I live in an area whereby we have a lot of foster children. So they're coming to your classroom, and often the number of foster children in the classroom outnumber your regular students. These children are coming with a multitude of concerns and issues. And I'm sorry, the regular classroom teacher cannot provide what they need. We are not social workers. We are teachers, but we can't be teachers. We can't go there and educate and do what we were meant to do because we don't have enough supports in place for those children. And I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than to sit in a classroom and be a teacher to children who are hurting, who miss their home, who miss their mother, and every other need along with it. But you know something? You have nowhere to turn. And that's not right.
Who else wants to jump in here and share their experiences?
I think that when inclusive education first came in as an official program, it was meant to be every child getting its needs met, every child. And that's what I believe in. I believe that every single child deserves to have a good education. Every single person has a contribution to make. Every single individual in our system should have their needs met. But when the model was put in place, instead of having my little child who wanted to go out with a special education teacher and work one-on-one at their level, now everybody has to be in the classroom. But being in the room doesn't necessarily mean that you are being included. You have to have the supports in place in order for the child to meet their needs. If we could have had more instructional resource teachers layered over what we had before, it would have worked a lot better. But right now, you're in a room and you have all kinds of issues, all kinds of behaviors, all kinds of learning needs that you have to try to address to the best of your ability. We need more instructional resource teachers. We need more team teaching. We need more, and as Mary said, we need more other government agencies involved in children as well, whether it is counseling, whether it is we're social workers. We have families in distress. We have economic things that are going on, that all of these things is part of the whole child. And we have to do the best that we can to reach the needs of their child. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
You have heard about some extraordinary things happening to teachers, things that they had to do to protect themselves. Can you tell me about that?
I know of situations where teachers have been bitten, they have been scratched, they have their hair pulled. I know even situations where teachers have to wear a garbage bag in the classroom because the student has been prone to spitting. This is causing enormous teacher stress, and if your teachers are stressed, it's going to impact curriculum and it's going to impact the students' learning. What other profession do you know where someone has to come in with a garbage bag on?
A garbage bag?
Yeah, really, a garbage bag. I heard of the situation and I was floored, but from my experiences and from myself being a branch president representing several schools and my friends as teachers, these behaviors are not out of the norm. I know of situations where instructional resource teachers have their hair pulled on a daily basis. And I don't think the general public truly understands, and this is why I'm here today. But as well, not only the teachers, but the students are seeing this. And the students are being subjected to violence. Often as prudent parents, we kind of hide violence or we filter what images, what students see and our own kids see. But yet in the school system, they're seeing this, and some students feel unsafe, and it's due lack of resourcing. There's not enough instructional resource teachers there. Sometimes it's even impossible to meet the needs of the most challenging students at times. And teachers are stressed, students are stressed, and I feel empathy for the parents. For parents who, say for instance, their child might have met needs last year, may have gotten the needs, and now things have changed. The following year, had to come back and say, sorry, we've lost a body, or we've lost a teacher, or we've only given it this amount. Now we'll do what we can, kind of thing for your child, and that's heart-wrenching as a teacher to turn away sort of a student that has been given all these accommodations and we're doing okay, and now they've almost left to fend for themselves, so to speak.
Talking about, the concern was just raised there about other children being exposed to violence in the classroom. How big a concern is that for you?
That's a huge concern for me, and I can come at it from a personal point of view in that my own child when he was in elementary school, witnessed a situation, and this is a long time ago because he's now 26, but he saw a situation in the school system, and he saw the adults, he saw the vice principal, the guidance counselor, the special education or IRT teacher arrive, and the classroom teacher addressing the situation with this one child, and he happened to be walking by at the time, and he came home, and thankfully, my husband and I are both in the education system, and we were telling him those adults were just making sure that that child was safe. But in the end, we ended up having to take our own child in to see a psychologist to help him resolve the issues that arose out of that, the anxiety issues that arose out of that. And I come at it, that's my own personal story. My son's going to kill me once he sees this, but but the thing is, I think about that every day when I am involved in a situation, or was involved because I am retired now, but when I was involved in situations that I know that children saw an adult struggling to help calm a child who was in need and who had lost their composure and lost their ability to control themselves, and they're thinking, what is Miss doing to this child? This can't be right. Why is she doing this? And so I know, and again, like somebody brought up, is the fact that the children are seeing this more and more often, and they're not going home and speaking to their parents. My son was able to come back and speak to me, and I knew that there was probably a situation that something happened just out of the blue, and that the adults addressed it as the best that they could at the time.
Are children getting hurt in the classroom by other students?
Yes.
Tell me more.
From my own experience over 30 years, I know I've been in classrooms with in situations with children who react very quickly. That they always tell us, look for the antecedent. What starts the child down this road? Why do they explode? Well, some of the children, some days you don't know the antecedent. There's nothing happened that you can see or are aware of that might trigger them. And what happens in those situations is that they're sitting side by side and their friend in music class or whatever, and then just reaches out and grabs and scratches the other child. And then you have to get their hands off the child and remove them from the situation, and then somebody else has to address the child who's unfortunately been the one sitting next to them. And it's probably not even directed to that child because that child upset them, not at all. It's just something's happened and they don't know how to deal with it, and they know better than to come after you in that situation, and they go to the nearest, easiest target.
Have you ever had scratches yourself or other marks?
Absolutely. I've gone home with bite marks and scratches and bloody noses, fat lips, shins pummeled, kicks to the tummy. Yeah, and I let me tell you, I'm Johnson's Insurance. Hate to see me coming between physio, massage therapy, and psychologist and chiropractor, but it's just so that I could do my job.
Now, some of the children, I'm assuming, that you're talking about don't have control over their behavior. They do have exceptionalities. What is the solution then? Everybody's saying they want inclusion. Nobody wants to go back to those dark old days where we would put some students with the most severe disabilities into a room that they pretty much never came out of. Nobody played with them, the rest of the kids at the school. They were bullied, they were taunted by the other pupils. Nobody wants to go back to that, right? So what's the answer to the kind of situation that you're describing?
I think a lot of it has to do with personnel and bringing in not just educators. I think we need occupational therapists in there. We need speech and language pathologists in the classrooms. We need access to more of these specialists to help us inform what we're doing in our classrooms. And yes, we have itinerants for a variety of needs and things like that.
These are traveling specialists?
Traveling specialists, but you see them once every couple of weeks or, maybe once a month or something like that. That's not enough.
When we talk resources, what do we mean exactly?
I guess from my perspective, certainly as I've worked as a school psychologist and more recently now as a school counselor, we've been inadequately resourced. That's been identified for 20 years ago. They identified that there was inadequate allocation of school counselors and school psychologists.
So where should we be number-wise, and where are we?
We should be one school counselor per 250 students, or one per school, and certainly one per 250. In a case, Boyd next to me is in a school of 1,000. There should be 4 counselors there.
How many do you have, Boyd?
There are two.
There's 2. In terms of school psychologists, ideally there'd be 1 per 700. The next step would be 1 per 1,000. In the city here, we have psychologists who are responsible for 3,000 kids. And we're not getting to all of the severe needs that need to be identified. We're not programming effectively for all of those. And then the other children who need our support to reach their potential are not getting our support, and they're not reaching their potential. And so we have, I feel we're in a perfect storm situation. We have years of cutbacks within education, which are causing our issues. We've got years of cutbacks from every other department. And other agencies can close a door on a family or a student and say, sorry, we can't see you. Or you've missed 2 appointments, we can't see you now. But everyone comes to school. And so we are left with individuals in front of us who need our help, and we're there because we care. And so obviously we're going to do everything in our power to meet the needs. And thankfully, this province has more than its fair share of highly competent people in the education system. It's not an issue of the skills, it's an issue of the allocation, the resources, and what else is happening in the community.
So a lot of people are saying that students with the greatest needs are not getting the attention they need in the classroom. And then there's this boomerang effect that the more average students are also not getting enough attention in the classroom. We haven't talked about the very, very best students and whether they're getting the extra little bit of input that really helps from teachers. So who else has thoughts for solutions on fixing this problem?
Just want to comment also that we're based on a needs-based system. That's what our whole hierarchy is, a needs-based system. Unfortunately, that needs-based system, the neediest students, and that's been identified, the neediest students get the resources. The problem is we're not really a needs-based system in terms of allocating resources. We're more of a budget-based. So it comes down to resourcing the needs of the children.
Specifically what resources? Specifically what solution?
And it depends on the school that you're in. It depends on the students that you have. If you have an autistic child, you need resources to help that autistic child, whether it's a one-on-one situation, whether it's a specialized program for that student, whether it's physical resources that have to be given to that student to keep them focused. Could be a fidget, something that they use to keep themselves occupied. It could be a whole program developed specifically for that child. And if you need your counselor and you need your instructional resource teacher, if you need an extra teacher, student assistant, these are all resources, whether they're physical resources in terms of things that you have to purchase or bodies that you need in there. And these are all resources that we need for the children. It's not for us, it's for the kids, for them to achieve to do what they need to do their best that they can do.
And how many people are optimistic that something like that might happen in the near future? We're in a place with a lot of challenges right now. maybe that's where we'll end it there with you saying please.
Please, I mean, the outcome is, what if we don't do that? Things are difficult right now, but if we don't meet the needs now, where are we looking in 10 years' time? Where are things going to be? And that's something government, we have to look beyond the 4-year term. We really have to look long term.
I want to thank you all for taking part in this discussion. Thank you very much.